Life is not fair. The faster you stop denying that, the faster you stop being crushed by it. Right now, this very moment, someone dumber than you is being admired. Someone weaker than you is calling the shots. Someone with fewer skills is living the dream you keep wishing for, only because they understand the dark psychology that most people refuse to see. You were taught to play nice, to wait your turn, to hope people would respect you because of your good heart. Meanwhile, others tossed those rules out the window years ago. While you were waiting for approval, they were taking what they wanted. While you were clinging to fairness, they were mastering strategy. The truth is brutal. The game is rigged. Not in some mysterious conspiracy way, but against the people who refuse to learn the real rules. It's rigged against the ones who believe fairness exists, against the ones who think good intentions matter more than psychological dominance. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli cracked the code of power. He explained why good guys finish last and why ruthless minds take control. Today, I'm going to show you 8 dark lessons from his psychology that will flip your life upside down. But be warned, once you see how the matrix of human behavior works, you'll never unsee it. I wasn't born ruthless. For years, I was the guy with all the right answers, the hardest worker in the room. And nobody cared. I was smart, dependable, genuine, and invisible. I watched fools get promotions while I was overlooked. I saw manipulators build empires, while honest men stayed broke. I watched charming predators attract armies of followers while decent people ate lunch alone. Then, it hit me like a brick to the face. The world doesn't reward intelligence. It rewards influence. It doesn't care about your honesty. It cares about your presence. It doesn't admire your heart. It bows to your dominance. That realization shattered me, but it also set me free. Because once I understood the real game, I could finally stop living like prey. Machiavelli saw the same thing in Renaissance Italy. Betrayal, manipulation, power struggles in every palace. He discovered that people who understand psychology rule over those who don't. His lessons aren't dusty history. They're survival manuals. Don't misunderstand me. Ruthless doesn't mean cruel. It means emotionally disciplined. It means strategic. It means understanding that while you're playing checkers with good intentions, others are playing chess with precise, calculated moves. So before we dive in, I want you to take your first step. Type this declaration somewhere, even in the comments. I refuse to be psychologically dominated by anyone. That's not just a sentence. That's you claiming sovereignty over your mind. From this moment, you stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a predator. Ready? Let's begin. Lesson 1. Fairness is a trap. Here's the first ugly truth. Fairness doesn't exist. It's a myth created to keep you obedient. Every time you wait for fair treatment, someone else is already taking what you want. Every time you cling to reciprocity, manipulators exploit your predictability. Every time you play by rules no one else honors, you're volunteering to lose. Think about your own life. How many times have you respected someone who gave you none in return? How many times have you helped someone who disappeared when you needed them? How many times have you waited politely while others cut in line and took the prize? That's not bad luck. It's programming. You were conditioned to believe fairness equals nobility. In reality, it equals weakness. Machiavelli wrote, "Men should either be treated generously or destroyed, because they can take revenge for slight injuries, but not for grave ones." This wasn't about violence. It was about psychology. Small acts of weakness spark resentment. Total domination creates acceptance. Most people make the same mistake. Half measures. They set soft boundaries with aggressive people. They push back lightly against bullies. They try to reason with those who only care about self-interest. That's the worst strategy of all. You look weak, and you also create enemies who sense they can eventually beat you. Psychological dominance is not about shouting, begging, or explaining. It's about consequences. When someone disrespects you, you don't argue. You act. You make it clear, without words, that disrespecting you costs them. You don't convince people to value you. You create situations where treating you well is in their best interest, and treating you poorly is dangerous to them. Stop being fair with people who are never fair with you. Stop trying to earn respect by playing nice. Start making respect the cheapest option others have when they deal with you. Because here's the truth. People don't change when you ask them to. They change when their psychology forces them to. And unless you master this, you'll always be the one waiting politely while life passes you by. Most people think being ruthless means exploding with anger, screaming at enemies, or crushing people out of spite. They couldn't be more wrong. Real ruthlessness is the exact opposite. It's not emotional chaos. It's emotional control. Ruthless people don't lose their temper. They keep it on ice. They don't lash out because they're hurt. They respond with strategy. Their decisions aren't born from bruised feelings, but from cold logic. What action will serve me best? That's why people who are ruled by their emotions never build true influence. They're easy to read, easy to manipulate. Anyone who knows their triggers can pull their strings. The moment they lose composure, they hand their power to someone else. Psychologically strong people operate differently. They know emotions are signals, not commands. They feel anger, frustration, disappointment. But those feelings don't drive their choices. They observe them. Then they decide what response will serve their interests most. Picture this. Someone humiliates you in front of others. Maybe they make a sarcastic jab at your expense, trying to chip away at your reputation. The emotionally reactive person jumps to defend themselves. They argue. They explain. They insist they're right. But that reaction does the attacker's job for them. It makes them look rattled, which proves the attack worked. The disciplined person takes a different route. They note the insult. They feel the sting. And then they pause. The question isn't, how do I defend myself? The question is, what move can I make that damages this person's credibility while lifting mine? Sometimes the best move is no move at all. Silence that shows the attacker doesn't even matter. Sometimes it's a calm, factual correction that makes the other person look foolish. Sometimes it's a small display of composure so unshakable that everyone watching sees the attacker as petty. The point is this: the response is chosen, never triggered. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He warned against dragging conflicts out with half measures. Injuries, he said, should be dealt all at once. Why? Because decisive action prevents lingering hostility and puts an end to drama. When you respond, it should be sharp, final, and unmistakably in your favor. Look at the most powerful people you've known. Do they get into shouting matches? Do they slam doors and lose control? Or do they stay collected, letting others reveal their weakness while they quietly hold the upper ground? True power lives in composure. When people realize they can't play with your emotions, they stop trying. They become careful. They become respectful. That's what emotional discipline gives you: sovereignty over your inner state, and therefore dominance in any interaction. Here's the next truth that will shatter the way you've been raised. Being liked is overrated. Being respected is priceless. When people like you, they'll joke at your expense, test your limits, and assume you'll forgive them. Liking you means they feel safe to cross lines. But when people respect you, they don't risk it. They think twice before pushing your boundaries because they know there will be consequences. Likeable people are predictable. Everyone knows they'll bend. Everyone knows they'll excuse bad behavior. That's why they get used. Respected people, they're dangerous. They're unpredictable. People treat them with caution because they know they'll protect their interests. Always. Look at your own circles. Who holds more influence? The friend who tries to please everyone, or the one whose opinion shapes the entire group? Who do people check in with before making decisions? The agreeable one, or the one whose approval truly matters? Machiavelli was blunt about it. It is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. He wasn't glorifying cruelty. He was pointing to a universal truth. People respond to strength more than affection. You don't have to be a tyrant. You just have to build a reputation, fair but formidable. Here's the difference in action. The likable person says yes to requests they don't want to do, afraid of letting anyone down. The dominant person says no without apology because they protect their time. The likable person accepts subtle disrespect, hoping it stops. The dominant person shuts it down immediately. The likable person justifies and explains their choices. The dominant person makes decisions and expects others to adjust. It's a complete mindset shift. Instead of asking, "Will they like me if I do this?" you start asking, "Will this strengthen or weaken my position?" Instead of avoiding discomfort, you learn to live with it when it serves your goals. Instead of chasing approval, you become the one whose approval is chased. And that's not arrogance. That's psychological strength. The fourth law of dominance is this: weak moves repeated destroy your influence, but strong moves delivered sparingly build it. Most people self-sabotage because they make empty threats. They say, "If you do that again, I'll," but never follow through. They warn. They remind. They give endless chances. And what do they teach others? That their words mean nothing. Psychological power doesn't come from a flood of empty warnings. It comes from the rare but undeniable moment when you act decisively. And everyone watching realizes you don't bluff. That single move rewires how people see you. From that point forward, they measure their choices carefully because they know you won't hesitate when the line is crossed. Weak people try to control others through nagging, begging, or emotional guilt trips. The result? Everyone sees them for what they are. All bark, no bite. Their words lose meaning. Their warnings become background noise. Nobody takes them seriously because everyone knows there are no real consequences. Psychologically dominant people play a different game. They rarely warn. They rarely repeat themselves. But when they finally act, their actions are sharp, final, and unforgettable. Machiavelli captured this perfectly. If an injury has to be done to a man, it should be so severe that his vengeance need not be feared. In modern terms, when you make a move, it should be decisive enough that no one dares test you again. Imagine someone in your circle constantly disrespecting you, interrupting, dismissing your ideas, mocking you in front of others. The weak response? Asking them over and over to stop, complaining to others, getting frustrated, venting, but never acting. And what does that do? It feeds their power. They see they can provoke you at will, and you'll never impose consequences. Now, picture the dominant response. You track the pattern, you stay calm, and then, when the timing is right, you act once. Maybe you call them out publicly, in a way that makes them look small. Maybe you exclude them from an event they care about. Maybe you shift the group's perception so their behavior isolates them instead of you. One decisive move. No drawn-out drama. No endless back and forth. Just a single demonstration of strength that rewrites the entire power dynamic. The key is proportionality. Not proportional to a single insult, but to the pattern of disrespect. That's why it feels heavy-handed to outsiders. But it works. Because once people see what happens when you're crossed, they remember. They think twice. And they stop mistaking you for someone who only makes empty threats. This principle holds true everywhere. In friendships, in business, in family dynamics. Instead of constantly trying to prove your worth, you demonstrate it once so powerfully that no one forgets. Instead of being endlessly available, you withhold your presence just enough that people realize they need you more than you need them. Instead of arguing your position repeatedly, you take one action that makes your stance undeniable. Fewer warnings, fewer explanations. But when you act, it counts. This brings us to the next level of influence, perception management. This is where psychological dominance evolves into true power. Because here's the reality. How people see you matters more than who you really are. Most people think being good is enough. They think their hard work or their character will naturally shine through. That's naive. People don't investigate deeply. They don't analyze your soul. They make snap judgments based on signals. How you present yourself, how others talk about you, the image you project. If you don't manage perception, someone else will. And they'll twist it in ways that serve them, not you. Machiavelli knew this. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. In other words, for the majority of people you encounter, perception is reality. Managing perception doesn't mean faking who you are. It means strategically shaping how your authentic qualities are received. Think about social media. Two people achieve the same result. One posts it strategically, showcasing competence and momentum. The other stays silent, hoping the work speaks for itself. Who gets the recognition? Who gets the opportunities? Always the one who managed perception. And this goes beyond online presence. Face to face, your body language, your voice tone, your clothing, your energy. All of it speaks louder than words. Walk into a room with your shoulders back, your gaze steady, and your words clear, and people instantly classify you as significant. Walk in hunched, avoiding eye contact, speaking softly, and they unconsciously downgrade you before you've even started. Control the narrative, share your wins, highlight your strengths. Let others hear the right stories about you. Leverage association. Spend time around high-value people and environments. Status is contagious. Keep some mystery. Don't overshare. When people don't know everything, they fill in the blanks. Often in your favor. Project confidence. Even when you're uncertain, act as if you belong. Confidence inspires trust. Uncertainty repels it. Your reputation is your armor and your weapon. It's the most valuable asset you own. Guard it. Cultivate it. Use it. Once you've mastered decisive action and perception, the ultimate move is this: controlling the story itself. Because reality isn't just about what happens. It's about how it's interpreted and remembered. The same moment can be framed as arrogance or confidence, as leadership or domination, as courage or recklessness. Whoever controls the narrative controls the meaning. And when you control the meaning, you control reality itself. Decisive action earns respect. Perception management earns power. Narrative control earns history. That's the progression. Weak people keep talking, warning, hoping. Strong people act, shape perception, and write the story others will believe. Here's a truth most people never grasp. The person who controls the story controls the meaning. Too many people obsess over their actions, but ignore the narrative wrapped around those actions. That's a fatal mistake. In human psychology, facts don't always decide the outcome. Stories do. Think about any conflict you've ever witnessed. The person who tells their version first, with confidence and persuasion, usually wins, even if they weren't the one in the right. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago. Men in general judge more by appearances than by reality. People don't have time or patience to investigate every detail. They rely on the simplest, most compelling story told by a source they trust. Whoever frames that story decides what the crowd believes. This is why you must learn the art of narrative control. When you succeed, don't just let the success sit there. Frame it. Shape it. Tell the story in a way that highlights your strategy and character, not just luck or talent. When you fail, don't allow others to label you as weak. Reframe it as a lesson, a stepping stone, a display of resilience. And when someone attacks you, don't only defend yourself. Flip the script. Make their attack evidence of their insecurity or jealousy. Let's make this real. Imagine cutting off a toxic friend who's been draining your energy. They start telling people you're selfish, that you abandoned them when they needed you. If you stay silent, that story becomes the truth in the eyes of others. But if you frame it proactively, I had to set boundaries with someone who refused to respect me, and it was destroying my mental health. Suddenly, you're not heartless. You're strong. You're principled. Same action. Completely different perception. That's the heart of narrative warfare. Anticipating how others will spin your actions and getting ahead of the story before it hardens against you. Don't just ask, "What am I doing?" Always ask, "How will this be seen? How will it be told?" Shape the story before others shape it for you. Once you learn to command the narrative, there's another level of authority. One even more powerful. It's not about anger, threats, or manipulation. It's about systems. Systematic consequences create psychological authority. Why? Because systems remove you from the equation. People can argue with your emotions. They can push back against your personal decisions. They can try to negotiate with your feelings. But they can't fight systems. Systems are neutral, predictable, and immune to manipulation. Machiavelli himself warned rulers, "Never place your power in the hands of others." A wise leader relies only on what he can control. Systems in practice. Think of it like this. Instead of arguing with people who waste your time, you simply become unavailable when they need you. Instead of getting angry at people who exploit your generosity, you redirect your help toward those who show gratitude. Instead of begging people to treat you better, you create environments where good behavior earns access and bad behavior earns exclusion. Here's a concrete example. Say you're always the one planning social gatherings, but certain friends constantly cancel last minute or show up late. The reactive approach is to nag them, complain, or guilt trip them. That only breeds more disrespect. The systematic approach is simple. I only plan events for people who confirm and show up on time. If someone proves unreliable, they're quietly excluded from future plans. No warnings, no threats, just natural consequences. Suddenly, people adjust their behavior. Not because you lectured them, but because the system rewards reliability and penalizes disrespect. This method is powerful because it's self-sustaining. You don't need to micromanage or constantly enforce boundaries. The system itself teaches people how to treat you. Over time, your authority grows not because you demand it, but because your environment enforces it automatically. People quickly learn, respecting you opens doors, disrespecting you closes them. They can't argue with it. They can't manipulate it. It simply is. This is psychological mastery. You're no longer burning energy on emotional reactions. You're no longer stuck in endless cycles of frustration or conflict. Instead, you've built systems that quietly condition people to respect you. This is the level where real influence lives. Not in constant threats, not in explosive displays of anger, but in quiet, predictable authority. Control the narrative and you control what people believe. Create systems of consequence and you control how people behave. Put those two together, and you've stepped into a realm of psychological dominance most people will never touch. Silent dominance, the final stage of power. This is the last and most crucial lesson. True psychological dominance doesn't shout, it doesn't brag, and it doesn't threaten. It moves in silence. The people who constantly talk about how strong, smart, or ruthless they are, they're usually the weakest in the room. Their noise is a mask, an advertisement for qualities they wish they had, not proof of what they actually control. Real power never announces itself. Real influence doesn't need to. True dominance is something you feel the moment they walk in. Not because they told you, but because their presence makes it undeniable. Think about the most powerful people you've ever met. Did they boast about their influence? Did they constantly remind others how respected they were? Did they make loud threats every time someone tested them? No. Their authority was assumed. Their results spoke louder than words. Their silence carried more weight than someone else's speeches. Machiavelli described this perfectly. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. In other words, you must be both. Strategically intelligent when the moment requires cunning, and psychologically forceful when the moment requires strength. And the true mastery? Transitioning between these modes without ever showing your hand. Your rivals shouldn't see your moves until it's too late to stop them. Your allies shouldn't realize how you positioned them until they've already benefited from it. Your enemies shouldn't notice you undermining them until their influence has already collapsed. Silent dominance isn't about sneaking around. It's about discipline. It's about letting strategy work for you, while noise distracts everyone else. You build influence without announcing your ambitions. You collect information about others while revealing almost nothing about yourself. You form alliances quietly, letting them strengthen you without tipping off your competitors. You weaken those who oppose you, without them even realizing where the shift is coming from. Strategic discretion is more powerful than tactical transparency. When you play loudly, everyone sees your moves and prepares to counter them. When you operate silently, your power feels inevitable, as if it grew naturally, as if no one could have stopped it. That is the highest level of dominance. If you don't learn these principles, someone else already has, and they will use them against you. This isn't theory. This is the invisible war happening every single day. While you've been listening, someone out there is exploiting fairness to manipulate others. Someone else is using psychological positioning to climb over the naive and unsuspecting. And unless you build your own strength, you'll always be one of the people getting played. You were raised to believe that learning these truths makes you bad. That's exactly what dominant people want you to think. They want you to equate strength with cruelty, so you stay predictable, soft, and easy to control. Meanwhile, they operate ruthlessly, strategically, and effectively. Without guilt. Every day you delay putting these lessons into practice, someone else is gaining ground. Every time you choose being nice over being strategically formidable, you hand your influence to someone who will happily use it against you. Here's the reality. The world doesn't reward naive niceness. It punishes it. The world doesn't need more good people who finish last. It needs people who understand how human psychology really works, and who use that knowledge to build unshakable respect, unstoppable influence, and dangerous confidence. If these words hit you hard, if you're tired of being overlooked, underestimated, or manipulated, then this is your turning point. Declare it again. I refuse to be psychologically dominated by others. Don't just type it. Live it. Start applying these principles. Start building silent dominance. Let your results speak for you. Let your presence carry weight. Stop begging for respect. Become someone others cannot afford to disrespect. Because here's the truth. While you hesitate, while you wonder if you should step into your power, the ruthless already made their choice. They're not waiting. They're not asking permission. They're already deciding what to do with people like you. Don't be one of the people they decide for. Become one of the people who decides. The clock is ticking. The choice is yours.